crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV lives in the White House.
Yeah.
And they found that very triggering. But again, as I said many times during the piece, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I didn't vote for him. I think we all know that. I went right back to being as tough on it as I ever had been. So I wasn't like seduced, but that was my estimation. Again, to your point about is he just crazy? When you meet him in person and spend that kind of time, and he's not on his his attack mode thing, he does not strike you as a crazy person or a person who doesn't listen or can't hear things. Again, they were very mad at me for saying this, but that's what happened. And I am not a liar. That's my main bond with the audience. So even if I offended some people by telling the truth, in the long run, that's what I do. And they, yeah.
What I saw in 2020, I was not going to vote for Trump. I'll never vote for Trump on election. And I donated the max to Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. And my thought process was the Democrats are going crazy, and we need the moderate, sane Democrats to maintain control of this party and stop the insanity.
Correct.
And they lost. And so then Trump put out his statement in around August saying, we're going to ban DEI in government contracting. We're going to do these things, blah, blah. No new wars was big for me. I'm a very anti-interventionist for a lot of reasons. And so I said, I guess I'm waiting for Trump. Instantly, it was like the liberals, even YouTube, they all said, we're going to move your name over to this list. I kid you not. There's representatives at YouTube. They told me straight up that the liberal rep was no longer representing me, and they were switching me to a conservative rep. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah. And I'm like, it's not that I like who Trump is or that I'm like thinking that conservatives have good policy. I'm pro-choice. The issue is that you can look at it right now. There's no charismatic leaders. There's no front runners. There's no policy position. It seems like the only thing they have is the right spin, Trump spin. And so I'm asking, like, what are our plans?
No, they have Democrats have policy positions on everything, and many of them are I think preferable to Republican policy positions. Number one being they concede elections. That's kind of a big one with me. They listen to what courts say.
I don't know about that.
You don't think they listen to what courts say?
So Joe Biden,
that's
ignored the court rulings twice on forgiving student loans and then tried to decree the Equal Rights Amendment.
That's true.
But I'm not saying that Trump. I'm just saying, like,
Miranda was brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Choices. You must say you're interesting enough to earn a scheduling and they get a shot from zipper.com/random. Pick next day. There are issues like what you mentioned, which is not untrue, where it's so easy for them to go, well, they did this, so we're going to do it 5 times worse. And then they do. But there are some like that. But there's one that has no fuzz on it, and that's elections. When Democrats lose elections, it's over the next day. Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton,
not Hillary Clinton,
not
Al Gore.
Al Gore that was not Al Gore doing that. That election was obviously decided by 537 votes. There was an absolute, when it's that close, there should be a recount. And whether that recount went the right way, we'll never know because that state was run by Catherine Harris and Jeb Bush.
There's a really good, I guess, I don't know if you call it a philosophical point that I noticed that I think you're experiencing right now is I'm 39. So you lived through a lot of these administrations and these political cycles.
Yeah.
And you have experiences that I don't even know they exist.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't live through Lincoln, but I know about it.
Sure. My point is, my experience in politics has been the Democrats have challenged more than the Republicans. To be fair,
have challenged the court,
challenged the elections more than the Republicans have, at extreme ways.
That's ridiculous.
So, but perhaps because you're older than me and you've seen more than I have.
So, again, there are history books, there are newspapers. You don't know something only because you lived through it. I know about the French Revolution also.
My point is,
you could know about this.
Indeed.
This is something that people your age say all the time, and I've made fun of it before. Like it's like if I wasn't alive for it, it didn't happen. I don't have to know about it.
But that's
okay. But
I'm saying that in 2016, I didn't vote for either Trump or Hillary, and then I got 3 years of Trump is working for the Russians.
He was not working for the Russians.
Jonathan Chamberlain on MSNBC and said he may have been a Soviet asset since the 80s.
Well,
and so for me, I'm like, I'm out. This is crazy. And so, like, understand. I'm not saying you're wrong about history. I'm saying that experiencing a political cycle over years is different from reading the condensed history books, which of course I do. So to live through 4 years of a president, their term every single moment, the history books gloss over most of those experiences that we don't have as young people. So I have people on my show who are 25, and one of the people who works for us says nothing ever happens. She's 24, and this is like a Gen Z thing. Nothing ever happens. And I said, are you kidding? The past 10 years have been nothing but happenings.
Yeah.
Here's the issue. When she was 14, she was paying attention to politics. When she was around 20 years old and started, this was the natural state of politics in her experience. So this is basic. This is normal. And for me, it's crazy. And I think for you, it's crazy. But they grew up in this and they've normalized it. So my view is this, not to say you're wrong. Obviously, my point is, when I watch the Democrats accuse Trump and Manafort and Carter Page, all of these things, especially when they fabricated evidence against Carter Page, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe the Democrats are going to this length to deny an election.
You're watching a little too much Fox News or somebody who's slanting this a certain way. I mean, Paul Manafort was sharing polling information with the GRU.
Is your boyfriend struggling with ED? Let me tell you my boyfriend's secret. It's hard mints by hymns.
Agent.
And do you know how they found out about that?
How did they find out about that?
Ukrainian government officials shared with the Democratic Party. Political report then. So you have this Ukrainian interference in our election that's reported by Politico. And I look at that and I go, wow, the Ukrainian government sent incriminating evidence to the Democrats. Crazy story. And then they claim no.
But it was true.
Indeed. And the issue is, why wasn't that a scandal? That the Ukrainians were interfering in the election.
Let's not get, because this is a friendly thing, let's not get into the weeds on like the Russia thing. First of all, it's like 5 years old, so people are going with it. Okay, but I'll just say this in general. It would be hard to argue with it, I think, but I'll just say it and maybe we can just move on. Whatever it was, I don't think Trump was a Russian asset. Don Jr. at one point said, or maybe it was Eric, we do get a lion's share of our to the company from the Russians. So there was obviously a lot of involvement with the Russians. Trump was asked at his first press conference, and he said, I have no dealings with the Russians. It's a total, complete lie. They had nothing. It's not illegal. But it just looks suspicious to say, I don't know anything about the Russians. And they're like, I don't know anybody who's talking to the Russians. Everybody in the administration, Michael Flynn was prosecuted for it, was talking to the Russians. He said on TV, Russia, if you're listening, I want your help with something. Okay, whether you think that's good or bad, it was completely unprecedented. So, like, the idea that he should not have been investigated for, there's a lot of smoke here with Trump and Russia. To me, okay, I'm sure they overdid it, as everybody overdoes everything, but there was a lot of smoke, enough to investigate, and what he was asking another country to do in our elections publicly was unprecedented. We always had one rule in this country: we're going to go against each other. Yes, Republican, Democrat, we'll do whatever it takes, but we don't bring in riggers from outside.
Ukraine.
What they brought that in the same election?
I forgot the name of the woman. This is a Politico. You just read their story. It was I can't remember the guy's name who reported it.
Now it's possible that, again, there's always some version of it on the other side. It's just not as egregious, I think.
They're accusing me of working for the Russians now, and this is, or they tried. And so here's the story. I get contacted by a conservative personality. I've got 3 shows that I host, several that I have staff that host. One of them is called The Culture War.
Right. We
produced it for 2 years, Friday mornings, similar to this, sometimes debates. And I was reached out by like 3 different companies who said, we want to license something you're doing. And I said, we do our own internal ad sales. We don't need to license. Some offers were made. Some of them were really good. And I said, I'm not really interested because the ad sales I can generate exceed your licensing. So I get reached out by this company in Tennessee from a well-known, prominent conservative personality who works for one of the big companies and said, we've secured an investor. We want to license the show. We negotiated terms. Lawyer negotiated terms, market rate. Non-exclusive license for distribution. They can sell the ads on the show. I get the money, the licensing fee, which basically, I can choose to grow the show for 2 years or just license it now and take the money.
You sound like you're a naturally savvy businessman.
Maybe. Well, this didn't work out so well for me because what happened was, at the end of last year, the DOJ indicted some random, I say random because they're not personalities from Russia, who were apparently in some Eastern European country, claiming that they were funneling money illicitly into this conservative company in Nashville to then promote Russian propaganda or something. The narrative now is Tim Pool was prosecuted for working for the Russians. The real story is the DOJ launched an indictment and dropped it almost immediately with no evidence, accusing a conservative personality of illicitly taking money from the Russians without evidence, destroyed the company, destroyed their lives, and then impugned the honor of anybody who had done the license agreements with a Nashville-based company.
Well, you really hit people's nerves.
But I didn't do anything.
I tell you what I'm not going to do is show up unannounced at your door in the middle of the night. Hey, Tim, be like Sonny on the Causeway, It'll be the end of Bonnie and Clyde. I'll just be like riddled. Yeah, boy.
It's a crazy.
You got to take it as kind of a compliment. People care.
That's true. It's not, I don't know.
But does it make your wife nervous? Does she hate it? Does she like, get out of the game, man?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Get out of the game. Yeah. Really? And what do you say when she says, get out of the game?
Yes.
You do? You're gonna get out of the game?
So
no.
Yeah, last October. I basically was just fed up.
What's the game?
With politics.
The game?
Absolutely. And I said, before I started doing my nightly show, I work 16 hours a day
I was
plus.
gonna say you got so much going on. Maybe just cut back. Less hours, more guns.
Maybe. Here's the problem. And I know that you can relate to this. I've got employees, I got staff.
Do you know you can have a harpoon legally in some states in this country?
I like that.
In case you're attacked by a whale.
But if I stop, then I gotta fire everybody.
Well, that's a noble thing, and I've heard it before from people, and I always think it's bullshit. It's like you're hiding behind that. You really want to keep working, because you know why? Like, you achieved a big thing. You were a big success. No one saw it coming, including you, right? Did you think you were going to be this when you were 15?
In some form, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of
good.
Piece of shit.
But doing this exact thing? Or close to it?
Close to it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to be a comedian before I was 10.
Yeah.
And then I imagined, in my day it was Johnny Carson, so I imagined being that, but it morphed into more, I think a political talk show, but also a gregarious, charming host would be, a great combination.
I think people who claim otherwise are lying. Not always. But come on, you didn't try your hardest and grind your fingers to the bone to get here thinking you weren't going to do it,
Well, exactly.
You were everything.
Like, I'm sure you're doing this and to keep your staff employed, but really,
Yes,
you want to do it and why wouldn't you? You're 39. If you quit now, man, first of all, you're going to regret it because, once you quit, can you get it back? Yeah. But audiences move on quickly.
Yep.
They
do now, too.
No, I'm saying, they always have.
Yeah.
Like when you go, you think you're so indispensable, and this is anybody, and you're not, because there's always people wanting to take your place.
And it happens no matter what.
You can be at the top of the heap. You'd be.
Me sitting here right now.
Imagine making $453,000 in a single month as an affiliate marketer without relying on Google, Facebook, or ClickBank, or creating new accounts on Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram. This may sound like a big claim, but I'm here to show you how this is possible in 50 seconds. Hi, I'm Adam Charrington. I've been an affiliate marketer for over 20 years, and I'm the founder and CEO.
With you, you have I would say in real time. From my circle, I don't know, but I feel like it's the most consequential political.
I appreciate that because it is, even though the problem is that the most influential media is controlled by that far left that hates me.
Yeah.
So they will never give it up to me.
But they
will never write about it, say that. Nobody ever covers it. It's just like their thing is like, even though the audience is always there, and almost always in much bigger numbers than the things they do cover.
One of the biggest videos we have, I think, is us talking about what you said. But here's
I said that it means so much to me because
it's not always good things we're saying.
Yeah, but at least you're watching,
right?
And you're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah. I say similar. My point is like there are people that I bring up my show who are like in the 20s and I've been watching for years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one day you will be sitting where I am, and I'll be retired. And
I don't even care if everybody agrees all the time. It's just that. It's about, and I think you would say the same for your show, it's about taking you seriously. It's about having the credibility to have them listen to whatever you're saying. And then you can say your thing. But usually they know, well, maybe he's not completely wrong about that one.
What I'm really interested in is Real Clear Politics put out this aggregate polling by decade age. I don't say demographic because it was like 18 to 29,
Sure.
It was like 30 to 39.
Yeah.
And only one bracket was anti-Trump, and it was 70 plus. And then
I saw that.
Gen X was a tie. And then there's I really want to talk to you about this too. They're saying that Gen Z is becoming more Christian.
Yep,
And
heard that too.
I'm wondering what's going to happen in 10 years. The boomers are going to be moving on, passing on. I'm not trying to be crass, but it's true. We're retiring.
You could say dead.
They'll be dead.
Yeah.
And what happens to politics in this country?
Not me, haters.
Bill's going to live forever.
Fucking haters and clickbaiters.
The pot and the booze is going to make you young.
What do I look like I'm in death's door?
No, you're pretty good.
Do I act like it? I've never missed a show, except the two they forced me to miss when I had COVID. Wait. They forced me because, of course, I could have contaminated and the entire city could have died.
I think I would have died.
You what?
I got real sick.
Pussy.
Yep. And then Joe Rogan said no.
Ivermectin?
No, well, technically. So I had called the hospital because my temperature was low. And I was shaking really bad, and I was like really bad pain. I was at the worst I've ever had.
Okay, why are you in such bad health to begin with? Because unless you're in bad health,
I was fat. Those fatter.
That's it. I always said that about COVID. Who does it kill? Fat people and very old people. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. That's just the truth. No, obviously it could kill anybody and blah, 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 and we should protect, and we should, the most vulnerable. But that's who would kill. That's what bugged me about all of our medical profiles are unique. That's why. But Random is brought to you by the audio marketing gurus at Radioactive Media, recently ranked number 20 on Inc. magazine's list of the fastest growing private companies in the business. Text random to 511. If you have 11, just go the game. What are you going to do? Be a farmer? Be a rancher?
Yeah, maybe. Well, so I'm not. I mean,
Really?
it's not just that there's people who, their livelihoods here, they've moved to the area, the Maryland, DC area. But it's, the conversation I've had with Allison is, I could stop doing the Nightly Show, which currently is, it's typically the second biggest live stream news. It's the biggest live stream news podcast. But Steven Crowder's bigger than us, but he's comedy news. If we want to look up together, we're number 2. And we both feel guilty about saying, stop doing this show with a massive audience so that we can go and have, like, we're rich, we can do whatever we want, we can just go skiing whenever we want, we can fly to South America and go skiing any time of the year. We feel guilty about that. We both kind of agree on that.
So tough. Why do you feel guilty?
I don't know. I think it's like, we were afforded this luxury and comfort.
No, for fuck's sake, get over it. Just enjoy it. For Christ, you could be that fucking in the
Different.
You could be in the hospital with leukemia or some shit. You're lucky. You're lucky in some ways. You also worked for it, and this is your fate, and you have it. And trust me, you're not going anywhere. You can go through these permutations in your mind, but at the end of the day, something on your shoulder is going to say, you know what? Let's make hay while the sun shines, and then we can go skiing in South America. Because, you don't know how long it's going to last. Popularity. The more you get, the more you have in the bank. It's good. I mean, if you really skyrocket to ultimate sort of fame, people never forget you. I mean, look at Britney Spears. She hasn't put out a record in 20 years, and people are still very interested. But
I think that's going away. Like looking at everything you have, and you're talking about the Mets and all this stuff. I think because of there's 2 phenomena that I think are going to break this. One is the decentralization of media through the internet, but also the lack of new leaders.
break what?
Everybody wants to know what you think about things.
Good, thank you.
I don't, but it is true. I go to some of these media reporting websites and entertainment websites, and it's not just that Trump did something; it's how you thought about it.
Oh, good.
It's you, Ann Coulter, and Joe Rogan almost always.
Interesting.
I don't know that we have that in 10 or 20 years. So I'll break it down entertainment wise.
Really, you don't think there'll always be people who
Not like
other
this.
humans would?
Not the way you guys are.
Yeah.
So, Timcast IRL, we do maybe 700,000 to 800,000 viewers per night, which is nothing compared to where Anderson Cooper was 20 years ago. It's decentralizing, it's changing. And
Right.
so we have a big audience. People talk like, wow, you've got this really big show. And I'm like, yes, but there's 50 other shows now that are comparable.
And also, just to put it, okay, how many adults are there in America? About 280 million.
And Gen Alpha's.
Okay, but I'm just saying, of all the adults who could be doing something, if it's 280 million and 700,000 to 800,000 are doing something, that's compared to how many it could be. To your point,
Right.
Here's the factor. TV shows used to get a share, which is the percentage of there's a rating and a share.
Yeah.
One is the percentage of people who are doing anything. They could be watching TV, they could be masturbating, they could be playing tennis or ping pong, and the other is just a percentage of the people who are actually watching TV.
Yeah.
So a share is a smaller number because again, it's among the people who could be doing anything, and TV shows sometimes used to get a 40 share, 40. 40% of the country who could have been doing anything or watching the Wild Wild West. I mean, that is this is your point. It's so much more bifurcated now.
So I'll give you an example. I was at a bar, and I went to the jukebox and I put in Bohemian Rhapsody. And what happened? Everyone in the bar started singing. Lit 100%.
Everybody knows that one.
The next song that came on, I didn't even know what it was. It was hip-hop R&B. Everybody broke apart. And so back when we had very few radio stations and very few television channels, they had to be very selective about what they promoted, but they promoted to, like you said, 40 million people, who knows? So you had that time period. Now for us, I think that combined with the lack of new people. So Gen Alpha is about 40 million, and they're expecting that if we
What age are we talking about?
this is 0 to, I think, 13 years old.
So the one coming up.
Yeah, so Gen Z just finished, or Gen Z finished a while ago. I think it was 2010 or something.
No.
2012. I think Gen Z ended.
Gen Z just began.
Gen Z is 97 to 2012, I think. Yeah, Gen Alpha is 2013 to 2025.
Oh, okay, right. So we're
Yeah.
going from when they're born.
Right.
Yeah, right. So we don't really count what they're thinking until they're at least
Right.
teenagers.
So
Right.
They laughed at me when I tried that pink salt recipe I saw in a short video, but just 2 weeks later, they had no idea I was the same woman. Ladies, just head to your kitchen.
Gen Alpha is 40 million.
Right.
It's
So,
expected to be between 40
so
and 40.
millennials ended at the end. They're like from 1980 to
1996, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 81 and 96. It depends on which chart you use.
Right.
But there were 80 million millennials, and there were, actually, no, I'm sorry.
And that's you.
Yeah, 72 million millennials right now, 69 million Gen Z, 40 million Gen Alpha. So, talking about share, if in 20 years we're looking at Gen Alpha and Gen Z, the dominant generations, there's substantially less of them to buy products, to buy tickets, to know who you are. And there's an increasing competition from decentralization of media. So I don't know how we end up with another Ann Coulter, Bill Maher, Joe Rogan personality. You know, and like the Bohemian Rhapsody song. If I go to anybody in my town where I grew up with, they'll watch your show. It's liberal Chicago, and everybody put on real time. And Jon Stewart, things like that. If I asked anybody who's on the Daily Show right now, they'd say, I don't know, Jon Stewart, I'm like, one night a week, I think. And then who are the other people? No idea. I think Jordan Klepper's one of them. Don't know the rest. To be fair, they have more than one host now. But I think everybody is choosing media that represents them, like you brought up earlier. And it's easier than ever to get into. Then there's going to be less people. You're talking about, owning a piece of the Mets, and I'm like, I might have a big show, but I don't think I'll ever be able to afford owning a piece of the Mets or anything like that.
Well, I doubt if they're going to sell it again. I mean, it was a rare thing. It doesn't happen often in sports when a team sells a chunk of themselves. The Mets were in very bad shape in 2010, and they sold 40% of the team to a select group of investors. That doesn't happen. Billionaires sell the whole thing to each other. They don't sell little pieces of it. But the Mets were so fucked up. They were being sued by the Madoff survivors because they were the ownership of the Mets, and they were lovely people, but they were apparently very in with Bernie Madoff, and so they were. And again, this is the New York franchise. New York. This is baseball. There's nothing more Americana than that in New York, and yet they could not attract investors. I mean, when I got it, I was like, I can't believe that I got a piece of the Mets. I mean, we're like hundreds of people richer than me.
What was the value that they put on the Mets? Not what you.
Absolutely, it was so undervalued. At the time, it was $750 million.
Wow.
Again, these aren't the Royals. No offense, Kansas City. This is the Mets, but that's how much they were shit on at the time. And it just shows the sheep mentality. Like, it got into people's heads. The Mets, there's a horrible toxic stink on them. Don't go near them. And I was like, oh, I'll go near them. Oh, I'll happily go near them. And again, I mean, when they sold, it was for like $2.5 billion. But even that's way underpriced now. I mean, the Celtics, I think, just sold for $6 billion. I mean, I said to myself, if there's one thing that always goes up, it's sports franchises. That's just a no loser. And then the pandemic came along and made it slightly more, still a winner, but it could have been so much of a bigger winner without the fucking pandemic. So you don't think I suffered?
Yeah.
We both suffered from the pandemic. You almost died. I lost money.
I don't know. I mean, I was sick, but with the age thing too. So I'm a skateboarder. I've been skateboarding my whole life.
I know you are.
Yes. Tony Hawk's fault. He landed at 900, and then every millennial had to get a skateboard.
Yeah.
Now there's no skateboarders anymore.
Why?
No kids. Skateboarding. There's not enough. So there's 40 million Gen Alpha. To be fair, like, it really is that skateboarders are, let's say this I'm saying this in a punk rock kind of way, degenerates. And so when they found themselves in the late 2000s being millionaires, what did they do? Nothing. They bought big houses, they partied, and now more than half of skateboarders are over the age of 30.
But that is the story of every generation as they get older.
But you need an industry. So like Hollywood, music and entertainment had an industry. Sure, the rock stars were nuts. The problem with skateboarding is the rock stars ran the business. So the core industries that made skateboarding big were also running the business. And here we are. And
but that is amazing to me.
Yeah.
That kids are not into it anymore.
Scooters. You know what I think? There's so this is where we get that terror stuff.
There's none of that going down a flight of stairs.
There is.
and wrecking your body on an unforgiving pavement.
Yeah, you shouldn't pay for it anymore.
You just
I think the top earner in skateboarding off of the sport alone was like $400,000 for the year, and then it immediately curls down to the top 10, made about 100.
Don't you think a lot of it is just every new generation has to shit on what the previous generation did and not do anything but that?
Well, maybe the older skateboarders think that skateboarding comes and goes in waves. There's nothing you can do about it, but I don't believe that's true. It's an Olympic sport. you're going to have China. Well, actually, let me put it this way. I believe tariffs. I'm sorry, not tariffs. Free trade is one of the principal culprits for the decline of skateboarding. And the proof of that is that in Japan and China, skateboarding's never been bigger. So one of the biggest skateboard brands, probably the biggest, the premier, it's called the Barracks, shut down in LA, and it shocked everybody. And they're reopening in Japan, where we offshored all of our jobs in manufacturing and the industry to China. Now Southeast Asia has a massive booming skate culture. They even have a reality TV show, which is it's like Ninja Warrior but for skateboards. In the United States, you got a bunch of 35-year-old men.
So how old do you think you'll be when you stop skateboarding?
Never.
Yeah, that's what I say about basketball. I mean, I always have, look at my finger. That's a basketball injury.
Wow.
I don't give a shit. Yeah, rebounding. You know, when the ball hits it's fine. It'll get better. Yeah, James.
That just happened?
Yeah, about a week ago.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That's great.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it. I played last night.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I do now when I play, I make sure I do a good 40-minute stretch before. I mean, I don't get up and then, knee pads and all the things that pros wear shit on their ankles. You want all the support you can.
I got to stretch it out, too.
What?
I got to stretch it out, too.
Yeah, you know what? Trust me, bro. 40 is nothing. You're at a great point in your life. It's great to be 40 and look, you're killing it. That's really great. And apropos to your thing about feel guilty, don't. That's stupid. If you leave here with one piece of advice, don't do that. That's dumb. Don't give
That's
up.
the liberal in you.
Don't give up. That's not the liberal in me. That's the smart guy in me. Don't give up your fucking show. That's stupid too. Keep doing it. At some point they might put you out to pasture. Don't put yourself out to pasture. I can name some people who did that to themselves in this business who were like, oh, I'm going to walk away from this. Yeah, good luck. And nobody ever invites you to walk back.
Yeah.
When you have it, you have a good piece of real estate, just take it. Let me tell you about Generation. There's a movie.
My social calendar forced me to rely on takeout. Factor helped me take control over what I'm eating and spending on takeout.
That actually was Johnny Carson's production company made. It was a big movie in 1983 called The Big Chill. And it was about how the hippies, the people who were like fucking hippies in like the late 60s when they were like 18, 19, 20, right? You know, the flower power and the free love and Woodstock. Okay, you got the general impression, right? All you need is love. Okay, so
Where's that good, man?
right. So then this movie takes place currently, which was at the time 1983. So now these people who were hippies are early 30s, and it takes place. It's about these. Some guys he lives in on a kind of remotely just out in the exurbs of I think it's North Carolina, and all the college friends are coming over, and so there's a lot of reunioning kind of thing. And when we were hippies, it was great. There's a scene where something happens and a cop car comes up to the house, and then the guy who's owns the house and is having all his college friends over, and he's just like, oh, thanks, nothing, but whatever it was, and you Bob, and goes, oh, thank you. And he goes back in the house, and his college friend is like, man, you were so nice to the pigs, and he's like, dude, I live here now, okay?
Yeah.
It's not like we're in college. I'm dug in. I think that was his line. I'm dug in here,
Yeah.
I have a family. I want the cop to be my friend. They're not all pigs anymore, okay? Grow the fuck up. And that's the great conflict of the movie. It's are we still hippies with all that ideology, some of which was good and some of which was stupid? Or are we just growing up? And you know what? That generation, who did they vote for in 1980? Ronald Reagan.
You know what I hear from you, it sounds like a mix a little bit of the understanding growing up and being responsible, and also the, come on, do your thing. I guess my question is do you have a preference for what the future of this country and world should be?
A preference?
Yeah.
I mean, peace and prosperity and democracy?
Because I feel like you're with politics, you're very in it, and there's a reason you, I, or anybody else wants to be involved in the goings on of the world, because
Right.
we want things to be done better.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So I wonder, when I say things about being guilty, it's if I have this platform that's influential, and I can, like you said, people will listen to me, and I can say, hey, I think this is a good way to do things, and that can make the world that way. That's when I feel guilty of walking away from that opportunity. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's great too. I mean, that's a great motivation. I mean, that's the best motivation. I mean, I never try to fool myself to think that what I'm doing is so noble that it's not really because it's doing what I want to do. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. I'm so glad that it does things for other people. And if you ask me what is the great joy of my life, I would sum it up by saying, there's this thing that I can do that enough people feel like I'm the only one who can kind of do that for them. I'm the only one who can kind of scratch that itch. You know what I mean? And every week, I'm they want me to do this thing for them, and I love being able to give them that gift. I'm going to do this. I'm going to interpret the news in a way that is just different than anybody else does. And it does a thing for you, and I love that connection. I give you this gift, and you appreciate it, and that's the relationship of my life.
You're obviously an atheist.
Yes.
Famously. Religionless. I saw it when you put it out.
Good, thank you.
I know I was last